Hello, and welcome back to The Top Shelf, my Criterion review series. This is episode 99. I'm Ernest Whiteman III. I'm a Northern Apple filmmaker, artist, writer, and media educator. And as usual, you know the drill. We're looking at the top shelf of my Blu-ray film collection. And you can see we have the new digs here. It's been a while since I put something up. I apologize for that. It's just that we moved, had a couple of economic things happening that delayed a lot of things, especially in my filmmaking. But I'm getting back in the swing of things. Hopefully I can start working on my literary reviews again. I'll do the rest of 2024 as shorts, and then I'll move back to the longer format for 2025 books, and then and subsequent books after that. But we will be moving again, so I have some episodes coming up, some short films projects that I'm working on as well. Hopefully we can get them done. Gotten into some film festivals recently, the Zeitgeist Film Festival in St. Paul, Minnesota. One of my short films is screened there, and so still working, even now, in these times. But as usual, I have a selected Blu-ray from the Criterion collection that I've gotten either as a gift or I purchased myself. And what I like to do is I like to discuss the disc, give a synopsis of the film, a review if I've seen it or if I've viewed it, and I like to look at the supplemental material on the discs, something that a lot of other Blu-ray reviews don't really do. But hopefully we'll get this done. I've recently acquired 3 new Criterion Blu-rays, which I'm happy for you to talk about with you. We're going to do things in a very different order. Usually I like to do them in the order that I receive them, but we have the Centennial episode coming up next, and I wanted to save a very special film for that one. So we're going to hop ahead a little bit, and what's on the top shelf for today is Kon Ichikawa's The Burmese Harp. This one is a very powerful film. It's considered one of the greats of Japanese cinema, especially post-war, anti-war films. Kon Ichikawa was adapting it from his wife, Ida Koda, I believe is her name, wrote, and I could be wrong about that. I'll put corrections in text here. But what it is it's about the ending of World War II, as we know how it all ended for the nation of Japan, with their surrender and, of course, the dropping of the bombs. A regiment who is sort of like raises its morale through singing and through the main character's use of the Burmese harp, sort of lifts their morale, and they've connected to each other through singing and music. And at the end of the war, one of them, the one who plays the Burmese harp, is tasked with trying to talk to a troop of Japanese soldiers into surrendering. Of course, misunderstandings happen, and he's thought to be dead when they bombed the area. And so what happens from there starts his pilgrimage from a quiet, peace-loving soldier to a Buddhist monk, as he tasks himself with walking across the country and burying all the dead of from the war, and his spiritual growth through that, as he sort of steals a monk's clothing to sort of like blend in. But as the more he goes through this journey, the more he learns about these tenets of Buddhism that sort of like really transform him. And it's done beautifully in black and white. It's probably one of the most touching films I've seen. The ending always, the reunion always brings tears to my eyes, and it's very much a a stalwart of Japanese cinema of the time. But for me, what interested me most in it, and why the reason why I got it, why I decided to view it, was this idea of in film cinephile circles and in filmmaking circles and in film critique circles, there's this rightfully so criticism of Japan not wanting to face its own history when it comes to World War II and the atrocities it has inflicted on other countries, and and it stemmed from this idea or this thought that in Japanese films they never depict themselves as the bad guys in World War II films. Of course, they were the victims of the bombings, and the civilian society suffered greatly at the hands of what was happening at the time. But the atrocities of the government and the military are never really truly covered. And was considered to be one of the first anti-war films of the post-World War II era, in that it actually depicted the human cost of the war. This person is going across the country, burying the dead that is accumulated from this war, and realizing that it's never going to end. His journey, but also the idea of killing. It also sort of critiques, as some Japanese films do, critiques this fervent nationalism that sort of lends itself to sort of dying for your country. And no ironies there in this modern time. So Kon Ichikawa was just someone who sort of really adapted this idea of wanting to look into sort of the human cost of the war, rather than sort of this fervent nationalism was tending to happen in a lot of Japanese cinema during, pre, and during World War II, and sort of pushing up against it and exploring that idealism. For me, though, it's another Japanese film that sort of leaves its mark again. For me, anyway, this is a personal ideal, and it has nothing to do with those post-war ideologies. It's just that the Japanese filmmaking of post-World War II through the 50s, early 60s was always thought where Native American cinema should be right now. We're just not telling those personalized human stories. How these great atrocities affected us. It's always about, of course, when it comes to Native American cinema, it's always about educating audiences that, one, we're still here, and one, that we have stories to tell, but it's never just, there's never really personalized about a lot of the films I see. It's very rare that I see a personalized film from a Native American filmmaker. That isn't sort of a gimmicky thing of, say, doing an indigenized remake of a film. But of course, all of this had to do with a lot of the U.S. censorship of film in the post-World War film industry. They had to get a lot past censors, and I think this was in '56, around the time when either the occupation ended, or U.S. occupation ended, or when the restrictions of censorship started to loosen up. And so Ichikawa or Kon was allowed to sort of explore this idealism about what was the cost of war. But that censorship of up until then, you had to promote a Western idealism, especially one of concerning democracy. So you get a lot of Japanese films that sort of espouse that and it sort of gives them this, gives them no reason to explore their own history, because they saw that their films were popular if they sort of espouse that Western idealism. So that's why a lot of it becomes about clash of cultures. I was talking about the post-World War. A lot of the filmmakers had to contend with censorship from the U.S. officials during the occupation of post World War, and that's why you see films like, especially films like Ozu, Yasujiro Ozu. His films sort of like are about a clash of cultures. You know, this Western idealism of marriage versus how the Japanese did it through arrangements, that sort of things. How the youth who are consumed by capitalist culture clash with the idea of proper decorum of Japanese etiquette. So there's all these ideas sort of emerging, and that's also sort of why in Ozu's films you get this sort of like the stereotypical stamp of how everything is suddenly just the same. You know, it seems like Ozu's films touch upon the same things: the marriage of a young daughter and how that breaks up the family, or the clash of youth versus, you know, the old ways. And I'm using stereotype in the way that it was originally meant of, like just a piece of metal that stamps a letter into the paper. You get the same thing over and over and over again. Yet Ozu and what made Ozu separate in Ozu's was that he was able to explore that thing multiple times. And Kon Ichikawa sort of did the same thing. He sort of explored this idea of what was the human cost of the war on Japanese society. And he did that with, I think, Fires on the Plains, I think it's called, and other films as well. And so it's a very moving, a very touching piece of cinema in my mind. That's my review. I would recommend it highly to people to see it, even though it doesn't overtly state that, you know, about the atrocities that were inflicted during the war. It does speak to the idea of what is the human cost of war in any society, but also the idea that a fervent nationalism is sort of like what has led to that cost, and how we've got to be careful in how we express our patriotism in these days and times, and what that really means, and how that sort of like there's a spectrum of meaning for that word, and how that sort of lends itself to all these different atrocities and different changes in society for good or ill, based on that whatever the conceived idea of patriotism is, and the idea that we should always strive to be our best selves, even if it's costs us something like human connection, like it does with the star or the main character of this. Because it did lead to him to a spiritual enlightenment, to see what, you know, looking upon the cost of it really meant to him. So, without further ado, let's break out the glasses. I have a bunch of new glasses as well. They're just readers, so they're cheap. We'll take a look at the supplemental features. An Ultra 4K. I got the 4K restoration, even though I don't have a 4K player, which is probably something that's 10 years down the line for me when they move up to 24K. I have low light here, so I shall try to endeavor to read these. A new 4K digital restoration with uncompressed monaural soundtrack, one 4K disc of the film, and one standard Blu-ray. So you're actually getting the film twice in this package with the film and sound features. Interviews with director Kon Ichikawa and actor Kentaro Makuri. The trailer, no English subtitles, of course, new translation of those, and of course the requisite essay by critique and historian Tony Raines. Tony Raines has been featured a lot more on Criterion these days. This is from 1956. It's 160 minutes, black and white, beautifully shot in black and white. Monaural with Japanese, and then Burmese with English subtitles. A 1:37:1 aspect ratio, so you're going to have the black bars on the sides on your 16:9 television or on your laptop. So, beautiful, considered a masterpiece. I would consider it a masterpiece as well. A beautifully moving story, So that's on the top shelf for today is Kon Ichikawa's The Burmese Harp. Um, spine number 379. Once again, thank you for joining me on this. Sorry it's been a minute, but hopefully a couple more episodes coming out. And as I stated before, this is an ongoing series. I'm not going to like stop it for any reason, like I did with the literary editions. But I will start those literary editions again. I'm working on a few short films. Uh, a documentary about cats and their effect on our lives. Um, I'm also working on trying to get my first feature film made. This time it's not Hamlet as I would hope it would be. I do hope to continue Hamlet at some point in my life, and I want to complete that as well. But you can see the trailer on my channel, and it's actually its title is "I'm So Humble." It's a critique of the Native American art scene. So if you're interested in that, I'll try to find ways to do some fundraising for that. But of course, I'm still trying to do it in my community art project style of just creating special and hopefully getting everybody paid equally at the end of it. Um, so hopefully we'll get those going. So stay tuned. I have another episode coming up soon. I'll probably record it right after this. And thank you. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.